Oops. I think I did that too fast. Give me one more second here.
Okay.
Nope, I did it. Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Okay, Mayor.
And so we'll call to order this is the draft budget meeting for June 24th, 2022, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is go over some of the highlighted things that I brought out in my memo to all of you. And then discuss some of the things during that period, some suggestions, some interesting information I found out that I think you'll all find really, really good. Actually, I'll give you that information first. Several of you have asked me if there's any way for us to use our tax revenues to help offset some of the costs for the improvements to the water plant, the sewer conversion, or the water mains, the improvements. And I told you I didn't know because it's two different funds, how I get the money from one to the other legally so that you can. And I spoke with the CPA and he gave me the information as to how it's a transfer from another funding source. So if you so decide to have, say you raise the millage rate a little bit more or keep it where it is, and you want to take that money, that extra money that you've set aside for that, it would move to the sewer. And this way there would be more money and you wouldn't be assessed as much when the sewers were put in, or you wouldn't have to borrow as much, any of those things. And taxes, they're already paying taxes. So that part of it would just, any excess we could move in. Each year you could move more in if you want. So I thought that was really good news if you so choose to do that, since everyone's already paying taxes. This way their monthly sewer bill will not be as high because they won't have to borrow as much, and it all actually turns out really well for us. So that's something for you to think about. If you want to do it this year, if you want to do it next year, whenever you'd like to do it, if you so choose to do it. So that was my good news. As you know, the operating budget, if you looked at it, was $6,006,604. And that's $462,000 higher than the current year's budget. The majority of that increase is due to capital. And I'll go through the capital with all of you to see where that amount comes from.
Linda,
Yes.
but before you leave the one issue on the talking about the sewer lines, I've mentioned to you several times about the possibility of us looking at the getting rid of the septic tanks and the sewer, as well as the underground electric, and bringing gas, natural gas into the community. I'm just wondering, what would it take for us to get to the point where we could really get a full report and assessment of what it would mean for us to be able to move forward with the project to encompass all of those things?
Well, I have a draft report from the engineer for the sewer. I'm reviewing it with Brent right now. They'll finalize it and it'll get to you, I expect, in your July meeting. So that part of the infrastructure, we've already started that. And that's needed before you go anywhere else, because if you're looking for funding sources, you have to have your plan. You have to have this all laid out. As far as the undergrounding of the other, the electric, the cable, and the gas, those are all the ones that you were referring to, right, John?
Yes.
That I brought it up in another meeting, just for conversation, one of the ones you asked me to bring it up, and there was not a lot of interest in doing that at this moment. Rick Granera had a comment about the electric lines that I'll let him bring up. So if the commission wants to move forward, there's another study that has to be done for the electric, for the gas, for the cable. So that's where we are with that. So you need to.
Yeah, John, going back to that, we also, I guess it was 2 years ago when we first really had the real conversation, we started talking about it. Our assumption was that the community would be, wildly supportive of natural gas versus propane, wildly supportive of undergrounding. And the more we talked with people, the more we found out that people weren't that wildly supportive of having natural gas. So, our thought was that we were going to do that at least to the library, so that we've got permanent, natural gas that would run those generators in all instances, no matter what happened. But But in my conversations and at that time, and if you've had your own, jump in, but I talked with dozens and dozens of people about undergrounding and natural gas, and not one of them was interested in moving to natural gas. They were all perfectly fine with the propane and with the tanks and with what's there. Undergrounding the sewer was a huge, huge concern. Undergrounding the utilities was sort of up in the air because half the people said it's a great idea aesthetically, but it really doesn't have any bearing because we're attached above ground, you know, going over to the mainland. So it doesn't matter whether we're underground or not, we're not going to get any greater benefit because everything going out of our community is above ground. And until Lantana takes everything underground, then it really doesn't matter to us. We would still lose as much electricity, you know, on all three of the islands than we would as if everything was above ground. So it sort of gave us pause there. Rick, I think, did a good job. I don't know if Rick, I don't see Rick on here, but.
He's on the phone.
Hey, Rick.
I'm here.
Yeah. What I thought you very eloquently sort of articulated. Tell me how wrong I was on that.
No, you were right.
No, you are right on the mark. Going underground has a lot of other issues too. We would have to, aside from just connecting, but also underground is susceptible to storm surge. So the cost to protecting those systems that are underground from a storm surge actually get more expensive as well. The program that we're seeing from what I've read so far is that a lot of places, the utility companies are putting in a multi-year storm hardening program with cities and towns, and it goes through to just make the poles stronger, more guy wires, upgrading some of the lines that are there, and it protects us for high winds as opposed to going underground. It's also typically a little bit less money to do it that way because there's more participation with the utility company for the existing infrastructure. And as you look around town, we do have some concrete poles that have been reinforced. And I think that would be the next step to look at that. Going underground, I think the last numbers we saw were really expensive, and it doesn't solve the problem. I think that's the problem. There's too many variables that still affect us having power after we would have spent, you know, tens of millions of dollars to go underground. So, I mean, it's worth looking at, but I'm not sure I have been convinced that, you know, we're going to be able to give the commission a report that would say it's a no-brainer. I don't think we're there yet, but John, I understand where you're coming from, and we can definitely look at it.
Well, I just thought if we're going to address the sewer and you're going to be, doing that type of, if we are going to bury those things, that the time to be would be to do it all at one time as opposed to having multiple opportunities. And again, I've only spoken to a few people. I mean, I've spoken to my neighbors and they're all would love it, but that's just a few people. That's just a handful of people. So if you all have gotten more feedback from dozens and dozens of people, that's certainly a lot different than the feedback I've gotten. So I'm certainly go with the group consensus, but I just thought I'd bring it up because it has been mentioned to me several times. And so I thought I would again bring it up. And so something for us to consider, especially if we're going to be doing something with the sewer lines. So
let me just address the gas. The last time we brought it up, and we got pretty far because we ended up having meetings with the Florida Public Utilities, with the residents at Town Hall, and the man was lucky to get out with his life. The group was so opposed to the gas, more than I'd ever seen.
Really? Why is that?
They just felt it was dangerous. They were happy with what they had. They did not want to pay.
They want to pay, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think
Florida Public
That's the
Utilities.
bottom line. At the end of the day, it's about paying.
Absolutely.
And there are two things that we've got to look at here. Number one, first and foremost, I think Rick has made the point. This is not about functionality. This is about aesthetic.
Yes.
So that's the two differentiations. So the aesthetic and property values, and that goes back to your point, John. I want, on the point where we are, it's already buried. So the aesthetic is there. We don't have lines up in the air. I'd love to see that throughout the community, all the way up and down the coast, all the way on both islands. so that we have that aesthetic. Functionality, that's not going to change a whole lot. So from a functionality standpoint, but at the end of the day, the decision came down to what's it going to cost me personally? And the moment we said it's going to cost you personally to hook up to this, it was a no across the board.
Yeah.
So if
I mean,
the town wants to pay for it, if we can pay for it with taxes, with additional construction, if we can pay for it, in some other way, and we're going to hand it to everybody, you'll get 100% vote. Well, you'll get 99 because somebody will still vote against it, even if it's free. So,
Well, I mean,
Is there
aesthetically.
is there any possibility that, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to ask you, is there something going on right now where there may be something that'll force people to do this because of all the problems they're having with leakage and stuff out of septic systems?
Yes.
well, that's what we've been saying for a while. Yeah, we're going to have to do this sooner or later. I mean, and we've guessed it's like a 10-year window, but it's a guess. We've guessed that the money is available now. The money's not going to be available, 5-10 years from now, but that's just a guess. So if we do the sewers now, we know that we can get some help. If we do them later, it's a whole different ballgame. Undergrounding the utilities, it's a whole different ballgame. That's really just, I go back to what John said. It makes common sense that if you're going to do it all at one time.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's common sense. Whether we want to build that into the budget and, eat that as part of this natural, we're seeing some natural increases where it's sort of an invisible tax. It's no more than last year, but because we're actually paying less per person than we were last year, it's being covered by the additional construction and the additional purchases and the additional, tax money coming online for the town. If we want to look at that, that's probably not a bad idea. Because sooner or later, all these poles are going to have to come down at some point. And it might as well be while we're doing sewer, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Right.
you gotta do it at the same time. When are we gonna get the report, the draft from Mark Ruse, Linda?
July.
Okay.
I have the draft now. I would have to then ask them to give us a report on what the additional cost would be for all the lines to be dropped while they're doing the sewer.
So, yeah,
Because that FPL and AT&T are tied at the hip, correct?
FPL, AT&T, cable.
Yeah, so, but AT&T, FPL and AT&T have to be together. We can't do one without the other, correct?
right.
Right.
Yeah, right, because they're on the same poles.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So the cable, Xfinity or whomever we use, those
Mhm.
would be the three, I think would be the,
Those are the main one. They're the main ones.
yeah.
Hey,
And if
Hank,
I-
did you
Including
take down,
gas.
did you take down the poles when you built your house, Hank? When you building your house?
Yeah, there was no poles. That's a section of Land's End that doesn't have any.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
already
nice.
underground.
Yeah. They're the
Yeah,
ones.
so and if I recall, and this is not current, but if I recall, we were talking about $1 million plus a mile to underground those utilities. So
I
we've
bet.
got 9 miles of road minus the point. So you're talking about, somewhere 8 to 10 million adding to the project. It's not like a huge number, but it's a number.
Do the utilities contribute in any way?
Utilities do not. Sewer, we can get grant money.
Some grant money out there. And on A1A, they already have gas.
Yeah.
They have natural gas all along that.
Yeah, we have natural gas on A1A.
Yep. you do.
No.
So
It's
that would-
phenomenal, yeah.
So is there any way you could take the natural gas that's going out of Hank's
Yeah.
house, take it across those lines?
Yeah.
You can try.
Do you have sewer as well, Stuart?
No,
No.
Yeah, we actually have sewer, but it's not hooked to anything.
yeah,
Pipe.
Yeah, we have sewer pipe in the ground, but it's not hooked to
yeah,
anything.
but it's not
And I don't-
hooked up to
I
a
don't
main.
know- Right. I don't know if that can be used because I think it was gravity and we're not looking into gravity. So I don't know if it's the same piping or what's involved with that.
Pumps.
Look,
Yeah,
it's we all understand, forget about the money for a moment, but it is an enormous project to hook up sewer I don't think people realize, the average homeowner realizes what's going to be involved, right?
No, they
'Cause
don't.
they're going to be digging up their property.
Yeah, and we're gonna, and lift stations, and you gotta understand, all of this goes from here to what, West Lake Worth?
Goes to Lake Worth.
Yeah. So it's not just, it's coming from here. It's not, I used to joke when I first got here, I would flush the toilet and the fish would start jumping out in the middle of the intercoastal. But, that's not this stuff now goes all over the place. It
Is your
goes through
vegetarian-
lift stations. It's well managed. And
Where's the main line in Lake Worth that we would pick up, we would tap into, the sewer line?
We
it would
hook,
be Lantana, yeah.
Lantana.
we would go through Lantana. We currently go then through South Palm. And what we do in South Palm is we share the cost if there's any repairs to that line, because we're sending sewer through. I want to say it's 60/40, something like that. And then it goes to Lake Worth, goes through Palm Beach, and at the Lake Worth Bridge, it goes over to Lake Worth. So it travels very far.
Yeah,
Have one lift station right at the plaza. This would require there would be pumps and lift stations throughout.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll kind of have a chat with Macruz to see what would be involved to include the lines for the additional services while this is being done. If they can give me that. Okay? And then we can look at that. And I gave you the wrong numbers before. The 462,000 is the general fund operating budget, and the capital is over by 292,615. I gave you the different options. This budget reflects a 2.830 millage rate, which is reduced from our current one. But it's still above the rollback rate. And that being the case, if you adopt anything above the rollback rate, we have to advertise that you have a tax increase, even though your taxes may only go up 5%, which is the allowed amount every year. It wouldn't affect you with a huge increase.
But our millage rate would go down 11%, correct?
Yep, the millage rate would go down. It would still be above the rollback. That's the whole thing. Whenever you go above the rollback rate, I have to advertise that's a tax increase.
So let's jump back a little bit. First of all, to get to that number, it's basing it on health numbers that we don't have yet. So
It's
we're
based on a lot of
going-
numbers I don't have.
We're going on the maximum of what we're guessing,
Yeah.
that typically every year I've been involved so far,
Goes down.
always come down.
Yes.
So we're protecting ourselves with these numbers. By August, we'll have real numbers. So by September, we'll be able to make a real decision
Yes.
of what those numbers are and what the millage rate should be.
Right, but
What we're doing now is we're adopting what I call the safe rate. Because
Mm-hmm.
we can go down, but we cannot go up.
right, that is the case. So whatever you do in July, you can always reduce. You just can't go any higher. So we're usually cautious and raise it a little bit higher so that we know we have everything covered. And the mayor is right. My insurance, as I've indicated in the memo, I never have insurance rates at this time, and they give me 15 to 18%. I don't have state revenues. They won't even be available till the end of July. So it's really a guessing thing at this point. Some of the things I can do is a lot of the expenses I can calculate. The next thing will go is I have raises. You saw that I've put in this budget a 5%. At the last meeting when you gave the staff the raise the last time, it was indicated that you wanted to do more than 3. So I have the information for 3, 4, and 5. And I gave you what the different costs are for those raises. So this budget reflects the 5. And then you'll need to let me know if that's what you want to go with. If you want to go with 4, I'll make the change when I give you the
well,
next.
how's our employee retention? How's it going?
Actually, I think it's Chief. In my department, it's great. Chief has, there's.
It's because of your management skills, Linda.
Yes. The changes that we're proposing in the budget, the dispatch, we've been struggling with our part-time dispatchers. It's been about 4 years since we implemented part-time for the 3rd shift. and took that full-time position out. What's happening is there's not a lot of dispatchers that have time and can fit into our slots. So my two full-time girls are working like crazy people and doing a ton of overtime, and they just can't do it anymore. So they talked to us about it and said, can we bring the full-time dispatcher in? When I bring that in, it saves money, even with the health costs for the
Yeah,
full-time.
because we're paying time and a half to people to
Hey,
cover
fantastic.
the spot.
Right.
So-
Right.
So,
So one of the changes, and I think that'll help with what we need. I've also, the chief has requested to bring the lieutenant position back in. We had that for many years. We changed it to a support services manager a couple years ago, and that's worked well. But he is now retiring. Larry, I'm sure some of you have met him. He's done an excellent job, but he's retired Delray Beach chief. So he's ready to leave us. His wife is retired and they want to have some fun. So the chief talked to me about the lieutenant's position, and I factored that amount into the raise, into the staffing also. And it comes out almost even to make that position, to have him retire and move, either move someone into that lieutenant's position or go out to hire. He has, I know that he's hired 2 people recently, right, chief?
Yes.
He can't, nobody can hear you. Only
I can
I.
hear- I can hear him.
Yes, I've hired 2 people, and they both of them, I believe, are going to start July the 12th.
so are you guys in the same room per chance?
No, he's in the room next to me. That's why you
Okay,
heard.
you're getting a little echo feedback.
All right.
That's no problem.
No, he's gonna come in here. Oh, there you go, closing the door.
There it is, even better.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, there are 2 things that I think are critical here. Number one, for both chief and for you,
Mhm.
we need to start thinking about plan of succession. Chief, we're
That's
not
part of
trying to
my
get,
next-
not trying to get rid of you, chief, but, we need to have somebody else in there who understands and has the ability to handle the force and what we need in town. And we hope that you're here for another 31 years, which is how long I plan on being here.
Well, you'll,
You're scaring me to death. 31 years.
geez, and speaking of that, there's another comment I was gonna make about the administration. Because I need a transit, I need to work on when we leave. And one of the things that I did is in the administration budget, which is why it's up a little bit, I have appropriated $39,000 for a professional, in professional fees for our CPA to start performing some of the finance director's duties. When I leave, I do both. And
Yep.
there are not many managers out there still, I'm old school, that do that. Most managers have a finance director and an accounting clerk and a whole lot of other people. We only have me and an accounting clerk. So I spoke with one of my friends that are managers that are using the same system. They lost their finance director. It's a lot for the accounting clerk to learn, and it takes years to learn it. They're in there doing that. It's a not to exceed 39,000. It's an hourly, and they perform the finance director's responsibilities. So I think it's a really good thing to start here, because I'm leaving in 2 years. Carmen can't tell you that, but I can tell you that. So I think that would help ease the transition. It would help Ashley, our accounting clerk, in the years that she's going to go forward and learn what she needs to do to hopefully at some point take the position over. But until then, this would give you the ability to hire a manager who's just going to be a manager. This accountant would then do that finance part. And as Ashley comes along, the hours will be lessened. So I think it's really good. I'm already thinking of that stuff, Mayor. I wasn't thinking of Carmen, but with the lieutenant's position, that's certainly a thought that when he leaves, that person should be able to move into the chief's position, or if it
Well,
doesn't-
not wholly dissimilar than what happened with you, correct, chief?
Pardon me?
It's not wholly dissimilar than what happened with you, chief, right? Didn't you had someone move on and you moved into their position?
Yes, he
right?
did. I
Yeah.
appointed him.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So that plan of succession, we need to have somebody who understands the system and is available to do that. So I'm in agreement with all of that.
That's
Okay.
a good point.
And we've done
Working on it.
that fortunately with the town clerk.
We-
And incidentally,
right.
town clerk on Zoom, you need to change your name.
I know,
Yeah.
it says.
It's not just on Zoom, but that's okay. I'll call you Lisa for today. And that's the biggest compliment you'll get all day, I promise.
So the same thing, I was thinking the same thing as we did with the clerk. We planned the
Okay.
transition plan. I want to do this, so see how it works and hopefully it'll be good. And then when I leave, all you'll need is managers. So the transition will be a lot smoother as opposed to both of these things. And same with the chief. So that's in this budget, the lieutenant and this 39,000. You'll never get a finance director for $39,000. I will tell you that. You're going to be looking at $100,000 at least. And this, I think, is a better transition. They're familiar with. It's going to be the CPA firm that I use. They won't be our auditors. They'll move into this, and then we'll do an RFP for a new auditor. And I know that the manager that's using it has done it 3 years, and it's been fabulous. So I'm glad you think
And we
it's.
have some great accountability there, and we have everything we need from the town standpoint.
Yep. Okay, cool. So then I'm going to move on.
Linda, can your son step into your position?
I know he thinks I work too much. He'll never do that.
Well, it's all about money, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's true. You have to pay him a lot of money. You have to pay him a lot of money.
So it's all about money.
I know.
Mine is not all about money. Mine is, if it was, I'd be asking you
Oh,
for
all right,
more money.
all right, fine. That's fine.
Because it's too, mine is, when they moved me into this position that I didn't ask for, they combined the finance director and the manager's position and just gave me less than the manager that was currently working. Wasn't a very good deal for me, but anyway.
Well, we just had someone buy a property for $200 million in town. I think we can certainly afford to have the finest and the highest paid employees in town to service our beautiful town, don't you think?
I think.
This is a business not unlike any other business, right?
It absolutely isn't. It's just like it, and it runs like a business, and it should run like a
It
business.
should run like a
It
business.
will, and should run like a business, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it really should.
So,
And we do our best to make it run like a business. Sometimes it doesn't. Our residents have.
so Linda,
let's
one
go back
question.
to number 3. I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to ask the question, talking about that and saying, what we're paying the employees. I mean, do you feel confident? I mean, that the 5% is an adequate increase? I mean, certainly I'm in favor of that or more, because I think it is important that we, pay our employees appropriately and because they do a really good job. And I don't know, has there been any analysis done to make sure that we have all the positions that are paid and very competitive, if not the top, or certainly towards the top of other municipalities?
We are in the middle for all the positions that we have. We're not at the top. We're just in the middle. Even for our police with the raises that we gave, we just skirt the middle. And that's.
So we have, John's absolutely right. We have a different town than it was 10, 20 years ago when many of us moved to town. And, I think we got to look at it differently today, given what's going on with property values. And so we
Well,
got to be.
we also have to take into account that the changes that we make have to be reversible. I mean, some of these are not reversible. So when we're talking about pensions, things like that, we're stuck with that, even if the house becomes half what it was worth last year. And our taxes go to 50%, we're still responsible for those pensions. So we need to be careful where we're spending our money. Personnel, the 5%, going to you, John, I think 5% is a very healthy, a very positive raise right now. If we need to look at that no different than we looked at 3%, we just gave them a 3%, and in advance of that being over, we're jumping that to 5%. So we can still look at 5% if we find out 3 months or 4 months or 5 months downstream that that's really not enough. We have that capacity to raise that as we wish. So I think the 5% is a good starting point on the raises. I think that's a minimum that we should be talking about, and then let's really monitor that, Linda.
Okay.
And let's see where we are, Chief. If we're having problems with personnel, we need to know that, because you two guys, you do a great job of managing, but we are not aware of empty space and overtime, you guys are managing that. It's costing us more to have the overtime filling in these spaces than it is to raise the salary to get the right person. So we need to make sure we're monitoring that.
And I agree, Mayor. What if 5 is what you give, they'd be very happy to have that. And every other city is going to be changing their salaries too. So I'll need to see after October what the salaries are, because everyone gets raises in October. And then I'll let you know where we are. I'll give you.
Because that, at the end of the day, that's not a big number
It really,
for the overall budget. So let's
Right.
keep a really close eyeball on that.
okay.
Now,
Is-
for
is
the
there-
individuals, it's a big number.
What has been the response to the first bump up we gave everybody? Has that been,
It was very positive. Everyone texted us to make sure that we let you all know that they appreciate the additional raise. It really helped with them. Gas is one of the biggest things, gas and groceries. That's what I hear about. You know, how hard it is, you know, paying $70 to fill a tank of gas. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So it really helped them a lot, and this will help them also. And if we evaluate it again, in 6 months and see where we are,
But why don't we make it 3 months?
I can do 3
Let's go on a
months.
quarterly basis, because,
Okay,
we're in a, 3 months ago, we were, gas was, 2/3 less or a third less than it is now.
true.
3 months from
True.
now, if we've got $8 or $9 gasoline,
Oh,
Well, and the other thing too, Linda, that we can, I don't know how that works in municipality, but the other option we have is, and I hear what the mayor's saying. I know it's got to be sustainable and something that we can, for the future. But the other option we have is to also give, if we can do that, and that is to give a one-time, if you're going to call it a bonus, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can do that under the municipality, but to say, we give them a 5% cost of living increase, but we
Cost of
also
living
then
increase,
give them a 3% or a 5% one-time bonus. That way their salary is not impacted. Their base salary stays the same, but it shows good faith that we're giving some additional money to help them during these challenging times. So I just think it's something that we really need to look at. I know in my organization, we've done it. I mean, we gave 10% last year. We're giving another 10% because we realize what's happening out there, and we've had to address it to keep retention, and also we know our employees are hurting, and so that's why I think it's something that we need to continue to keep our eye on and make sure we don't lose people, and that we show our appreciation, since I think they should be rewarded accordingly.
And you did that via bonus, John?
well,
Yes, to a bonus.
we did it, I think there was 2 years, I think we've done.
2 years ago, we did, what was it, like 5,000 or?
In lieu of, we gave in lieu of a raise 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
With this group, it was with a different group of commissioners. In lieu of a raise, they got a one-time, you can call it a bonus. We can't call it a bonus, but a one-time payment. So if you wanted to do that, we could give a raise and then give a one-time payment. That's doable.
Yeah, let's start with this. Let's start with where we are. Let's find out, because in September, we're going to have, actually in August, we're going to have real numbers.
Yes,
And once we know the real numbers, then let's make some decisions based on that.
okay.
Because right now we're dealing with speculation on some of the cost. I want to know what the real costs are before we start
Moving or,
doing additional
other things.
expenses.
right.
And we don't know exactly what our real expenses are right now. So
That's true. That's true.
Linda, I'm looking at is there a line item for overtime? I'm trying to find it.
Yes, if you look in the police, let me find the page. Hang on.
well, can we back up and get to there? Stuart, do you mind? Because I want to follow let's go to the, page 2, where we're going, we did the raises, the employee service program.
Right,
And then
that is,
we'll get down to police department. But just make a
Okay.
note on 7 to talk about overtime. When we
Okay.
get down to number 7, okay? So
okay,
we're on number 3.
done the raises, the
We're all
employee
in
service,
agreement on 5% right now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
is that the
I see the-
consensus?
Okay, so that 5%, we're gonna monitor that based on what the real numbers are in August.
Mm-hmm, Mhm.
And when you give us the real numbers and the real budget, we're going to relook at that 5% and decide whether anything else should be added to that
Okay,
based on the budget.
all right. And
Does
then
that sound good, John?
That sounds good. Thank you.
okay. The employee service program, which is the next one, that's where, based on longevity, every 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, the employees get a one-time pay. And that was implemented several years ago, so I kept it in this budget. Administration, I talked to you about it. The increase is due to the accountant, that's the professional fees for 39,000. That's my main, that and insurance are the two things that brought that budget up. I don't know if there's anything else under administration you really want to, I have to talk about. Those are my two main things. Communication infrastructure and technology, holy moly. We have more technology for a little city than you could shake a stick at. And unfortunately, it costs a lot to monitor them and have the maintenance agreements, technical support. So that's up $19,925.
But having said that, and I'll jump in and Chief jump in on this if you want to. Everything that we hoped and dreamed would happen as a result of having this technology has happened. We are able to respond much quicker. We are able to respond more specifically. We're able to monitor things and catch things in advance of. I think Chief has done a great job. Again, sort of understaffed, but using the technology. If you also look at the crime stats and everything that's happened since all of this went into place, we've ramped down to almost zero. And knock on wood, now right now somebody's house, something's happening, but knock on wood, that will continue.
I just say, don't even say that.
I know, really.
It could change tomorrow, but the technology has helped us a lot.
Yeah, so it cost a little bit of money, but my goodness gracious, from the ocean and the ATVs and the cameras, from the cameras on the internal, from the cameras at the point, I mean, we are well covered, and we are finding that more and more we're getting notified well in advance of people even coming into our neighborhoods because of this camera, because of locking in. I especially like the new antenna that puts us on with the sheriff's department. And we get this added benefit. It was a sort of an unknown benefit of South Palm Beach going with the sheriff's department instead of having their own police. Just by virtue of them doing that, the sheriff's department is always about 100 feet away from Manalapan. So it's instead of being off somewhere on I-95 or over somewhere, somewhere out west, they're always 100 yards away. They're two cruisers for the sheriff's department that they're sitting right there. So if we have anything critical, the sheriff's department gets that on the same radio that we get it on. And that's thanks to Chief moving us onto that same network. And to O, thank you to O for allowing us to put that antenna up on top there. But anyway, having said that, so then police department.
Okay, so you want to know about us, Stuart? It's the third line item in the police
I saw, yeah, it's not a lot.
that we budget. No, but we've spent 123 in a previous year and 95 in a year before that and 69. We've been bringing it down. Chief works as hard as he can not to have overtime. And
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, look at like any business, so you have to weigh, people view overtime, it's additional compensation for them versus hiring an additional person.
Mhm.
You know better than I do, people relying on that overtime, I'm sure to some extent, right?
Right. And this, well, the dispatchers, absolutely, it was their request. They have been making a lot of money and they're burnt out and they just want to work normal hours, have a little bit of overtime, but not they're covering a whole shift. So that's just a lot.
What is it? You mentioned the dispatcher salary is what?
Dispatcher salary, hang on.
Just as an aside.
Let me see what I got here. I got papers all over the place. Dispatchers, that's your starting salary. Okay. Chief, do you know what the starting salary is? Do you remember?
I think it's 50,000. We just talked about it the other day.
50?
No, it's 55, Chief.
55.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's comparable to the other cities around us.
That's a good, those, all of the support salaries that we have are pretty comparable. I mean, we're pretty well in line. I think we, from the officers, where we're not in line and where we could use some additional assistance are some of the more critical positions. The officers, I want to spend more money. Again, we need to carve off a little money for water and for what's going to happen in the future with our water plant, with the sewage and so forth. But the position seems to be, all of the other positions seem to be pretty well in line with other communities, at least from what I've seen.
Okay. While we're on the police, we want to talk to you about the security guards.
Yes.
So there's a 5% increase to their current contract, which puts it at $236,111. I also have a price for the unarmed officer. That's for armed. I also have a price for unarmed. It's $207,887. That's a difference of $28,200. We continue to receive complaints about the guards. And the chief is forever on the phone with the manager that oversees our thing. We have a bunch of lazy guards who don't want to get off the chair and come and see people. Don't always want to don't open the gate or close the gate when they should. The chief can address it a little bit better. So
that's the complaint you get, Linda, or that they're not motivated, or is it they don't like?
They don't come out of the gate. They haven't. When the gate's down, they don't always open it when they should. Most of
The short of it is they're not doing their job.
correct.
The short version, and let me give you two things. Number one, and go back to the original thought process. If we go to unarmed, the only reason we went to armed is it's a simple thought in my mind that if you have gone through the process of training and taking the time to get yourself to be able to carry a weapon, you're a much better candidate for me than a kid who could be standing at a 7-Eleven or standing at a car wash and taking your ticket as you go through, who's never done anything to prove or accomplish anything. We're getting a higher caliber person. Now, when these guys started, as you well know, or those of you who have been through, most of these guys look like former military. I don't know that that's true, but they were, when you went through, they were serious looking people. It was very clear that they were serious. There was a very clear, that has decreased significantly now to, we even had an interaction not too long with one kid who was standing maybe 15, 20 feet out in front of the guardhouse and waving at him, sort of stopping, rolling down the window saying, "What's going on?" And he said, "Apparently I can't be in the guardhouse." And he's complaining to a resident about, he can't be inside the building. So I say let's look at some other options. There are 100 groups that can do this.
Mhm.
The bottom line is that gate, that red light at night,
Mhm.
and then coming up on that has probably been more of a deterrent. What was his name again? Romney? No, not Romney. Rumsfeld. It's the unknown unknowns. We don't know how many people have not come into town because they came and saw that gate and turned left instead of coming into town. But we do know that nobody's coming to town. So there has to be a parallel. We haven't had people come in and try to steal cars or break into houses. Those things haven't happened. I'm all for looking at another agency, and there are many. Whatever the Wackenhuts of the world, which are no longer around, but the Wackenhuts of the world, there are plenty of those groups around. And to find an armed individual, in my opinion, even though it's going to cost more, is going to give us a better caliber person.
Well,
No, no, no.
I agree with you. Initially, I think that was the case. Over the years, it's not been the case. And the mayor's, I mean, the chief has been on top of them. We've talked about changing companies because there are many of them, and this has become untenable. You know, probably 5 times a week, at least, he's gotten a complaint, and he has to go over and tell them to come out of the guardhouse, to when to open and close, when they should do things. That shouldn't be the case when you're hiring.
Chief, do me a favor. Can you call Ibis Golf and Country Club
Mhm.
and ask them who they use at their gates?
Okay.
Because that's a hired group as well. And I defy you to go up there and tell me that's not a policeman standing at that gate when you come to that gate.
Mhm.
They are highly trained. They are higher end employees. It may cost a fortune. I don't know, but no matter where you go there, you're not getting in there unless you meet the criterion. And we have a little bit different situation.
Yeah.
But there are 3 or 4 groups. You know, there's some other in the north end. A lot of the gated communities have some good groups that I've seen going in. You know, Ballin Isles has a good group,
They do.
but it may be worth, you know, a phone call to find out who they're using.
We'll check into several of the companies that are out there. And
No,
then,
what do we, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. That's fine.
I was just gonna say, I mean, are we very clear on what the objective of the attendant, the gatehouse is to do? I mean,
I think Chief's been very specific.
do we need, I mean, your problem is at night, chief, right? It's not pretty much during the day, or is it 24/7?
It's both. It's both.
Yeah, it's 24/7.
Everyone would like to see, the complaints I'm getting is that there's no visible gate guard. When we drive by, they're actually inside with the door shut on their cell phone. They've been completely instructed that they need to show a strong presence and answer any questions if someone is looking or wants to ask them any questions. They are not doing this. We began with a company called Spear, and then they did use ex-military and ex-law enforcement. Since we started, the company has sold or merged with St. Moritz. Is that who
St.
the
Moritz.
company is now?
St. Moritz.
St. Moritz.
No, Maria, that's okay. No.
St. Moritz.
It's whatever.
And they have not done as good a job and provided the personnel. I believe when they started about 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Maybe 6. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But have we seen a lower incidence of problems since we've manned the gatehouse? Because I know there was a discussion, you know, some time ago, we didn't even have a gatehouse. Has there been a lower incidence of problems?
We started, I have not done a survey. I don't have that data. We started it because we had those multiple car burglaries,
Right.
I mean, car thefts. And since then,
We actually had a home invasion.
well, the home invasion was in Lantana, correct?
It
Right
wasn't
on
ours.
town.
Wasn't in the point, was it or wasn't?
It was in Lantana on the point, but it was not in our town. It was in Lantana. It was on Hypoluxo Island.
Island.
It was right on the edge of our town, but it wasn't in our town.
Yeah, I came through to visit my house 3 times last week, and then again on Saturday and Sunday. And not once did anyone come out of the guardhouse.
It's a continuous problem. I could call them constantly and get, so I think we need to change because they're not providing the level of service that we want.
How much does it cost us to man that gatehouse right now? What's the
Oh.
line item?
200 and it's going to cost us $236,111.
It's huge.
236?
Yeah.
That's 24/7. So
How
that's
much
three.
how much would it cost us to put a police officer in there? What's the delta?
Because it would have to be several police officers because you're covering
Right,
seven,
yeah. Well, I think a
24/7.
camera put his bed in there and have a kitchen.
Listen, they brought in a Barca lounger.
They get a Barca lounger moved out of there.
The Barca
Really?
lounger, Carmen showed it to me. and I
Freaking
was-
lazy boy.
Freak-
Come on,
lazy
really?
boy. Yes, just last week, right, Carmen?
Yeah.
My
So as a
God.
reminder
It's
to
mine.
everybody, we're in a public meeting, so.
It's okay. It was there.
Barker? Really? Oh. my God.
So the
What we'll do
the
is-
bottom line, to answer your questions, Commissioner, the cost to have officers there would be at
Too high.
a bare minimum, twice as much.
It would be very high.
I mean, much, much higher than it is to have a security firm there. The other thing that if we have an officer there, then that goes on. It's not just the salary, it's the benefits package, it's everything else that goes with that, none of which we pay to
Yeah.
the
But you're not
the
getting, you're not getting
contract.
the level of service you want, so.
Yeah, but we can get the level of service we want.
Well, based
it's
on
out
what
there.
everybody's saying here, I think we, as you said, Mr. Mayor, is let's just find somebody else to operate this thing, because I don't think putting a highly trained police officer in there is really in our best interest, because they're needed out on the streets and roads and stuff like that.
Yeah, we already have an officer 9 out of 10 times. You already have an officer 10 feet away,
I
15
was
feet
just
away.
gonna
Right,
say that.
exactly.
You have an officer,
Yeah.
whenever I go in there, you have a parked officer there anyways.
Yeah,
Yes.
typically, well, there are always officers on the ocean and the point, always.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what time of day you go there, you're gonna run by an officer, at least one.
Well, that's
So-
what I'm thinking. If you have an
So
officer there
Late,
already,
late at night, what we're doing, and Chief has been doing a remarkable job, and I thanked them again the other night. Somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock. We don't have a whole lot of traffic on this side after 9:30, 10 o'clock. And after midnight, I have no idea who would be on the road over here. But the officers very gently pull out and follow your car.
Right.
From afar, a couple of 100 yards back, but they'll follow you to wherever you're going, and just to make sure that you're supposed to be there. And once they know you're there, they'll go on and turn around and go back. So we've got good, the officers are doing a great job. It's the gate.
Right.
And I think it's just simply a matter of, it's no different than any other business. We need to have the right face at that gate. That's the first impression coming into the town of Manalapan. Let's look at other organizations and figure out who should be there. And then we'll figure out that budget and what that needs to be.
I'll have those numbers for the next session of budget discussion. So we'll have an idea as to go up or down.
Well,
So let's-
will we have
let's
a
move-
chance, will we have a chance to vet some other operations or groups that could do this thing?
I'll
Because
do it.
it's a shame the chief has to keep going and writing on these people.
Babysitting, I know.
I'll do it. I'll get some other quotes.
Okay.
And anyone who wants to be a part of that and help, we welcome that help. Move on, if you will, to fire rescue. Linda?
Fire rescue, of course, is something we have no control over. South Palm, we used South Palm's assessed value to come up with this number. It's still less than using the actual numbers for to man a station. And so it's up $134,950. And that's what it is. The building department.
Well, let me just make a comment about this.
Fire,
Yeah, it's always bothered me on this whole thing because I know I'm in a different state, obviously, but I know that the fire and rescue up here in Connecticut, they operate the thing where they're entitled to get reimbursement from insurances, particularly if they're going after people who are older and on Medicare and things like that. I've never been able to figure out whether we are paying the net amount in a relationship to what they may be getting paid with regards to the reimbursements they're getting.
we don't have any input. We're not entitled to any of that money that they get back. They bill independently. our fee is based on having them here to provide fire and rescue services.
And it's a county function, so it's not anything that we have control over. And I agree with you, Chauncey, 100%. The county is making money on fire departments. I mean, they are making money, which they are using in other areas because they are getting reimbursements and we are also paying for the use. But having said that, it is by far the best option. We couldn't begin to have our own fire capacity for the amount we're paying. So
Right.
it is by far the best option. And I have to tell you, those guys are as good as they come.
Right. No, I agree. I think it's a lot of people don't realize that there's money coming back that's covering things, and there may be a double dip here.
Well, it's a single dip because they're the only ones dipping. But we're
That's
paying. We're not paying for the service. We're paying for the availability and the
Right.
location. So we're paying for what it costs for them to have that fire department there.
Right.
And
I understand.
it's sort of like I put it in the same category as the library. You know, it's a small price to pay, not to pay the bigger price.
I understand. Yeah.
So, okay, building department.
Building
Linda?
department, yep. There's been a slight increase in the building department. Inspection services fees are up based on what we're seeing with currently. And also there is, we've increased our scanning. We are digitizing all of our building plans and we've been doing on it. Erica's been really working on this like crazy. She intends to have all of our plans digitized, hopefully in the next year or two, right? Isn't that Erica? And it's really fabulous because when you need to look at a set of plans, there they are. And we're requiring everyone that brings in new plans to give it to us in a digitized form so we don't have to go and scan those. So that's one of the big things that we're doing in the building department.
And we should be able to do that in about a year. I think what I've requested in the budget is another 9,000 drawings, and that should be go for the remainder.
So she's working, her and Ally have been working hard getting the things together to send them off to be scanned. We want to continue it and then we'll be digitized and we'll be in the 21st century, imagine.
Long overdue.
I know, it's just such a big project to sort through all the plans that are there to make sure you have the right one. There's some plans, there's 10 and 15 sets of plans in there every time they made a change. And then you don't have a final. So it's been a lot of work for them to go through.
Hank alone has 40 sets.
So this project, you're actually going back in time and digitizing all the
Plans that we have in all these files. Yes. It'll make our lives much easier in the long run, but
Yeah.
sure.
At the end of the day, you know, the cost basis of physical space for file cabinets. I mean, just look at that alone versus digitized file cabinets that are up in the cloud that anybody can get to that are permanently secure.
Yes.
That and public records requests, we can turn them so much quicker. We don't have to charge nearly as much. It just makes it a lot easier for the residents.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing and we're moving forward with it. Most of it done by the end
Very
of the
good.
year, right?
I hope so.
Okay, library, here's our favorite. This is, and John wants to speak on this, I think, too. I budgeted the same 54 this year as always. When we look at our assessed value and the millage rate that was there last year for the library, since I don't have this year's, our residents are saving over $1 million by not being taxed for the library. So our 54,000, it's my sales pitch every year. It's worth $54,000 to operate the library and have the events that we have and save the residents that much money.
So, but what I had mentioned to Linda is that in looking at this, I mean, I certainly wasn't aware of the impact that it has by us having the library. And, I just think that maybe what we should do is do like some type of a campaign, or call it what you will, to send out a notification to each of the residents and just say, that because we have the library, this is how much money you're saving in taxes. And for that, we're asking for a voluntary donation to help support the library in whatever amount that we come up with based upon whatever the taxes are, and come up in order to cover the 54,000, because, or maybe not all of it, but at least a portion of it, to make it so that we can, cover part of that cost. So I think Linda said that we have to pay some of it in order to, not have being a problem with it. But if we can come up with something to help offset that, I think that would be an easy money that we could find. And I think people would not object to making a voluntary donation. I know I certainly wouldn't. And I think most people, if they see that, would realize what a great value there is.
Yeah, but we do that to some degree now with the memberships, correct?
With the,
Right.
well, with the
We get
library
the-
card.
Right, we get donations, there's a fee is factored into the budget, a membership fee, and then we get voluntary donations. Many people, when they send in their money for the dues, they send a donation with it, include a little bit more, round up that number. So we do already get donations, certainly not enough, because the 54 is what helps offset the budget in the library. That's.
Am I correct in this, but didn't we hold off on that for 1 year because of the COVID, or?
We didn't spend it, yes, 1 year because of the COVID. It just went back into their fund balance
Right, okay.
for us, because we didn't, we put it in, the library didn't spend it, so it's in the library's fund balance.
Right, okay.
We've put it in.
Yeah, but I think to John's point, it would be beneficial to put out maybe a campaign or to raise the awareness of how important this is and what the savings are.
Absolutely. Because most people don't understand it. I can tell
No,
you that.
Oh,
I don't think most
anyone
people do, and I think it may not, bring in a lot of money, but I think it'll bring in, more. I know we have several campaigns through my organization that we get in. It's a voluntary donation, and when we see the impact it has for certain things through our foundation and stuff, we always make the voluntary donation when we see. And I think when you see what it does for us individually with our the taxes we're saving, I just think it's something worthwhile, and maybe we would generate even more money to make it to be able to offer more programs and do other things that would be there. So I don't know what it would take, Linda. I know you guys have a lot on your plate, and I'm certainly willing to volunteer to help with that effort, to put together some type of a whatever it would be, and work with anybody to try to make it, at least try it and see what happens.
Beautiful.
Okay, the only thing I have to check on, we as a town can't go out and ask for money. So I have to see how we can handle it to get, when we've had drives before, it was done by individuals. And like the Chiefs Donation Fund, 2 individuals did a letter, sent it out to the residents. The money came in, and he's used that money because we couldn't, on our letterhead, ask. So I'll check with the attorney and see how's the best way to handle it.
Yeah, it can be done, John.
Yeah, it can.
It can be done. Let me ask a strange question.
Okay.
The library, in as much as the library houses our water,
Some of our water.
is there any way that we could do allocation
Allocation for what?
from that portion, which is a different corporation from the town, or different piece of the town, if you will,
Right?
for the use of that space?
You mean charge them rent?
Yeah, I mean, no, what I'm saying is it's the library, but that's also our water tank.
Right.
It's an interesting question.
It is.
I don't know if everybody's aware, but the library is actually it's a surround for a water tank.
Yeah, I knew that.
I don't,
So just I mean, it's an interesting question. I know that when we have different pieces of the same organization within buildings, everybody pays a pro rata portion of rent for the space they're using within the same building, even though it's the same organization.
right, we pay.
That's the way we budget out.
We pay $1,600 to the library for the electric, for to the water. The water department pays us for that. We can transfer monies. I'd have to see how much is available.
Something to look at.
Okay.
Okay, so going to vehicles.
Okay, vehicles next. There's 3 vehicles in the budget. 2 police vehicles and it's time for my car to be replaced. So that's the budget for those 3. 5-year warranties. And we're also replacing the oldest ATV.
So let me, just one quick question, ballpark, what do we put on a police vehicle? Chief?
5 years.
Yeah. I mean, what,
100,000.
okay, so you're above 100,000 on all these vehicles.
We're right, we're at 2 of them, we're right at 100,000.
Okay.
By October the 1st, we'll be over 100,000.
And the ATV, do we have, does that have mileage on it or no?
No, it does.
It doesn't have an
hours.
odometer? Okay.
I'm not sure if it has an odometer, but we pretty much do the hours on it.
Okay, all right. No, just a question. I didn't know the
Service.
answer on it.
They deteriorate very rapidly because of how they're used.
Well, the bottom line is once we get to that 5-year window, we need to get out of there because it's going to cost us a fortune.
Right. And the ATVs are sooner than at 5. They don't make it 5 years.
Yeah.
They don't have
We don't have a warranty.
they will not warranty the ATVs, especially on that beach with that saltwater corrosion. They will not.
What do we do with the used ATVs and vehicles?
Sell them.
So
Just put them on auction? Okay,
Sell them. Yep.
all right. All right. So
Okay.
going to number 12 at Capitol.
Capital.
A quick question on vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Do we ever look at hybrids or electric?
We haven't. Ken, I don't know, Chief, what's your feeling on those? Hybrid.
I don't even know if they make a hybrid.
I don't know if they make a police vehicle hybrid.
Yeah.
I had a choice to get a hybrid Explorer. I use a service manager and he's very, very good. And I also have been using where I buy my cars from. And the Explorers came out the hybrid. They did not, for the first year, they did not recommend that I use that because they hadn't been tested. So I believe the Explorers came out last year, the hybrid, and they told me they just didn't recommend them. So I've stayed away from them right now.
Okay.
Yeah, can we put that on the, the tickle file for next year?
Yeah.
To relook at that, because that's based on the volume of what you do. My fear, Hank, is that because of the volume of what they do back and forth, we may have to have 2 or 3 extra vehicles while 2 are charging.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? We may have to, and because the cost of those are probably 30, 40, 50% more right now, at least. We may have like doubling our vehicle capacity just to have the same amount of coverage. But as
Down
those
the
come
road,
down,
maybe down the road, it makes sense.
yeah, as Elon makes a better battery, maybe we could take a look at those. Okay.
Okay.
So
let's-
I'm assuming also 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, it's not an 80-watt replacement.
It's 80. We have a 70 right.
80 kilowatt. you mean.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure
It's
80
yes,
watts.
kilowatts.
80 watts
Yeah,
wouldn't
80.
make much.
They
Kilowatts.
don't make
I
the
missed-
70 anymore.
I missed the K. They don't, ours is 70 kilowatts. We got prices for 60 and for 80. And all of the companies that we talked to and the gentleman that does her maintenance, who wasn't bidding on this, said we had to go to an 80. We couldn't drop down to a 60.
That's propane, correct?
No, it's natural gas.
Oh, you're natural gas at that spot?
Uh-huh. All
Yes.
of A1A is natural gas.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's
This
okay.
is the generator on that side.
Yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
The generator on the other side would be in the water department.
For town hall, the one, okay, I've got you.
Right, and the water plant, if they do run propane, if they do run natural gas up to the library, which is what I had indicated to you before, and you asked about.
We can switch.
Generator needs a much larger generator, and it would be very costly to get it, but that's what we'd have to do. Our current generator could not do it. All right, so
Okay,
the rest
So-
of the,
so let's jump to the next page, general fund budget.
you have any questions about any of the capital?
Well, I do personally.
Okay,
There's
That's
something
them.
wrong. As much as I know you guys really enjoy working up there,
yeah,
it's hard for me to believe that in the year end 20, that we spent $32,000 on alcohol.
on what?
If you look at the revenues and sources, I think what's
Jesus.
happened is,
It's up a line, it's down a line?
yeah, well, I think what's happened is it's the alcoholic beverages and the 1/2 cent tax have been reversed.
I don't know.
That's all I could see is because you go from 1958 to 32,000 to 1958 to 2,000. Something's wrong there.
Okay, I'll look at that. Let me see.
Okay, same thing on the motor fuel tax. We're at 2,000 and then the actual was for 2020 was 30,000, 29,000, something's wrong.
Hold on, let me get there. Right, it looks like they're up and down a line because half-cent sales tax is supposed to be budgeted for 44,562. And motor
So
fuel,
just take a look at it. What,
they're
there's
just
some,
down, they're,
somewhere there was
sellers-
a number missed.
right, there's just,
So the other
the
is
total is right.
Go down and look at investment income.
I know, it's very low.
And we've gone from on looking at 20, at 76,000 to
Yep.
18,000.
Yep, to
On
see
a-
what you took in this year.
meanwhile- Yeah, or projected for the budget, yeah.
Yep. Now, if interest rates go up, that's another matter, but we've really, that's how much revenue we've taken in so far.
All right, can you do me a favor, something that would be helpful to me and maybe to everybody?
Mhm.
Seeing the revenues in this way, the actuals,
Uh-huh,
it would be helpful to see the revenues versus the expenses on a page. Because what I'm doing is I'm getting the revenues.
right, on one,
I'm getting the revenues on one, and then I'm getting the breakdown on this year. I'd love to see the 5-year comparison of
Right.
our budget,
just our revenue and our expenses.
just actual, our budget and actual.
Okay,
So income and expenses for 5 years.
okay,
And the reason I wanted to get there, I'm trying to get to a point where we're able to answer the question, how many years have we come under budget in a row, which has been significant?
okay,
And then the approximate remainder, we won't know that until September. How much money is going to be left over from last year's budget coming
Right.
into this year? We won't know
Right.
that until August, probably.
Okay.
If any of that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to do. You just want one sheet that
I
shows
just want to see an actual,
the
a budget,
expenses.
expense and income and expense on a 5-year basis.
Okay,
So we can do a actual comparison.
yep.
Okay, and then anything else as you go through, did anything else jump out at anybody?
If not, then what do you want? I have these changes. Leave the millage rate where it is for right now, until I get the new numbers. And then we can decide in July, after I put those together, if you want to keep it this way, if you want to lower it, if you want to keep it where it is and put money into the utility.
Well,
Those would be the
one
things-
point I wanted to raise, I don't know how everyone else feels about it. We have a lot of deferred capital programs in the town that have accumulated. I read through a lot of the older reports, and we have new ones coming in for some other capital improvements, whether it's the sewer or electric. Is there a wisdom in a year where we have such a surplus to start creating a line item, if we are able to transfer it over, for some amount of money that would, in the early years, pay for the soft costs, like the engineering we need to do to get qualified for some of these funds? And then in future years, already have that line item established that's been funded in prior years that could be used to help offset some of the expense for carrying that, whether it's a loan and repayment, whatever. So, I would be in favor of just leaving the rate where it is until we get better revenue numbers, better expense numbers, especially in the insurance category and some of the other employee compensation programs we want to do, and then having a better understanding once we get the Mark Roos numbers in, where we are with the larger capital improvements. And then there's a laundry list of little ones that are going to add up that we should probably go back to the water department and take a look at old transite water lines that should be replaced, et cetera. And then put all that together and then make a better decision when we have all those facts. Because I know we can lower it. We can lower it when we do have the facts, but if we
Right.
pick something too low now, we can't go up.
Right, and the transfer that I talked about would be for a capital transfer into the utility for, as you say, soft costs. It'll be designated just for capital. And then hopefully each year we'd be able to put more into it. And with what the utility has, then we can take care of the capital that we know is out there.
So that being said, a consideration, I mean, we're at we're at 31695 right now. If we take it down to 283, that's as high as we can go.
Correct.
So
I agree with Rick that if we should leave it at 3.16 and
Well,
adjust it later.
yeah, well, I'm okay with moving it down from that because I don't know that, I think that's a big number. But if we move it down to like 3.1 or something, I want to be able to show movement downward on the millage rate for now. Because all we're doing right
Even if
now is
you
just
split
saying,
it-
yeah.
Yeah, even if you split it at 3,
Yeah.
until we get
'Cause-
harder facts.
Because we can always come down from that in September, and we will. But the reality is, we don't know what the numbers are yet. This goes nowhere except right now, it's a budget meeting. I want to send the signal very clearly that the millage rate is going to go down. But I don't want to go down to, personally, I don't want to go down to 2.83 right now because we don't know what the real numbers are. So I'll
Completely agree.
put it out to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, I'd be fine with 3.
I agree because we don't know what the numbers are, and take the capital projects off the table, we still don't know where the numbers are. So it's not like those are driving the decision. So I would agree with 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So if we we're going to bring it down to 3 for now, and then we're going to reassess and at the budget meeting in
Right,
what is
that's when you'll decide.
it's in
And
July, correct?
July, the meeting next month, you'll have to put a tentative millage rate. You'll have to adopt a tentative millage rate to send to the property appraiser. And
Okay,
then,
so we're right now, what we're doing is we are recommending that the millage rate come down from 3.1695 to 3.
correct,
And then we're going to reassess that in July. And the meeting, we're anticipating the meeting is going to be just prior to the town commission meeting. Is that correct?
I think that's what because you're not going to be available for Monday.
I'm not here that Monday. I fly in that night.
Okay, so would everyone that's going to be there be fine with having, we think 9:30? Can we do this in a half hour or we need an hour? We can put an agenda together that we're going to have the budget meeting at 9, if that's when you decide, and the commission meeting to immediately follow.
Oh, I like
I
that.
don't want to have you sitting there for an hour before we can get to the,
Yeah, why don't we make it 9:15? That gives us plenty of time. You know, I think this is a 15 or 20 minute conversation. And then that gives us 15 or 20 minutes to get ready for the meeting.
okay, yeah, you'll have new stuff
Because
to,
we've got a few things we've got to cover in the actual commission meeting.
yes.
But that gives us 45 minutes to go through this. We will have all seen this.
Mhm.
And any personal conversations, again, we cannot talk to each other about it, but please talk to Linda. If you have issues or thoughts or concerns, directly talk with the town manager. And so all of those concerns or conversations will have been had before that meeting. And we can walk in there and hopefully knock this out in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
That
we
gives us
should.
time to go get a drink of water. Stuart can run a couple of laps around the building, you know, just to rev himself up again and, get ready for the 10 o'clock. Okay.
Appreciate it. So we're gonna combine the budget with the TCOM on Monday.
Yeah. On
Right.
Monday,
We're gonna have a quorum.
Yes, Chauncey's flying in. I have you, I have Chauncey, I have Hank, I have John. How about that? That before,
Okay.
okay.
Chauncey.
So Linda, it's on Monday, not Tuesday?
No, Tuesday. It's on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, same day as the commission meeting.
So Tuesday at 9:15 a.m.
Okay,
Okay, Tuesday.
Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. and then Tuesday at 10 a.m. is TCOM.
Yes. And we have a lot because we haven't had a TCOM meeting now in June. So we have stuff to talk about. Okay.
Good. Got it.
All right. Well, thank you all for this. It was lovely having a Zoom meeting, huh? We could
Yeah.
just,
And I want to say one thing really quick, and I say it not often enough, but I want to say it again. You guys, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time and energies and giving your professionalism, giving your opinions and your guidance for the town, because this is it's a great community. It's astounding what's happened in the last month, the last 2 months. We're just stunned at what's happening down here. But we've got a great commission. We've got great leadership, and you guys are responsible for that. So thank you for that. Linda, thank you for fighting through all things that you were fighting through. And Erica, thank you for being the pseudo Linda when you need to be. And Carmen, thank you for being the greatest driver that's ever lived. Because I understand that, there's some Uber delivery going on, back and forth. So I appreciate that.
No problem. My pleasure.
Great job on this, Linda.
Thank
Great
you,
job on
Mayor.
the budget.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you, all of you for participating and helping with me here. Okay.
Everyone.
All right. We'll see you in a month.
See you next
Well,
month.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.